Welcome to your Friday show, everybody. This is Fantasy Football Today. And last night's game was a fill in the blank. It was a blank fantasy game, Dave.
Good.
Perfect.
Good. And what?
Perfect.
It was not perfect.
It was a
Jamie must have been playing against DeAndre Hopkins.
You had Kyler Murray have his worst game of the year in terms of fantasy points. You had Russell Wilson have his second worst game of the year. It was a quasi-dud. That's the answer I was looking for. Quasi-dud.
Nah, it was good.
I think people who were brave enough to start Tyler Lockett were very happy. I think people who were brave enough to start Carlos Hyde were very happy. Drake and Edmonds were good no matter what the format. And did we see the Seattle defense get a little bit better? And could they be the DST that you coast with for the next several weeks? Maybe.
Oh, yeah. If you can still pick them up, you should, because some leagues you can, and that would be Philadelphia and Washington and the Giants. No, it's Philadelphia, the Giants, the Jets, and Washington are their next 4 games. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a drowsy first half. Second half was pretty good. All right, we'll talk about that game. Seattle winning 28-21. That safety in the end zone was a huge play. We got the Deandre
Bad call.
Bad call?
Yeah, the holding happened before it was in the end.
Did you hear Mike Pereira's explanation?
No.
He kind of felt like the holding didn't start until the end zone. Like it looked like it to me and to most people, but to the referee, the expert, he didn't really start actually holding him, turning him, he said, until he got into the end zone. So I think Mike Pereira, I think he sort of straddled the fence there, but I think he thought it was.
I mean, he had him sideways grabbing his jersey right up the line of scrimmage.
All right. Take it up with Mike. Take it up with Mikey P. A lot of Lions news, including DeAndre Swift, but also Kenny Golladay. And everybody missed practice, basically, for the Lions. We'll talk about that.
No, Marvin Jones was limited.
Okay, good. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Are we going back to Ezekiel Elliott this week? Are we trusting Todd Gurley against the great run defense that's given up only 1 rushing touchdown to the 6 running backs that have had 15 or more carries against them? That would be the New Orleans Saints. Jameis Winston this week, Tom Brady this week. It's all going to be some good stuff, some beat the waiver wire. Let's get to the, before we do that, let's get to the game. Seattle 28 and Arizona 21. All right, Chris Carson should be back next week. And let me ask you this. Who would you rather have in a PPR league rest of season? Let's start with the Cardinals. Kenyon Drake or Chase Edmonds?
Still say Drake. But it might depend on format. You said PPR league?
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, Edmonds only had 6 touches.
Yeah.
Yeah, if this is the Drake you're getting, then it's Drake. If you're going to give him 4 catches a week, 3 catches a week, anything in that range, he'll be the better of the 2.
He's looked good since he's come back from the injury, too.
Well, hold on. Well, should we not? He had 8 catches going into this game.
That's what I'm saying. If this is the Drake you're getting, then you'd rather have Drake. If this is not the Drake you're getting, then you'd rather have Edmonds.
Okay. But you have to make the evaluation now. Do you really think he's going to be involved in the passing game, or is this just going to be that fluky game?
It's probably going to be that fluky game, but I still see him as their main running back, their short yardage goal line guy. He's probably going to outperform Edmonds more often than not.
I think you can in PPR start both.
Do you have any concerns about Russell Wilson, that maybe they will become more of a running team, go back to their roots a little bit? Wilson was pretty conservative in this game. You know, how many times did we see him kind of load up, not take the shot downfield, and then tuck it and run? He had over 40 rushing yards. And then obviously they ran the ball pretty effectively in this game. This was tied for the fewest pass attempts of the year for Wilson. Do you think that this is going to be concerning where he won't be mega awesome?
I think to a person, every beat writer I saw last night on Twitter for Seattle was praising this as the best game that they played all year. And so offense and defense. And so, you know, this was a Pete Carroll game. And this was kind of my expectation going in, was that they were going to be a little bit more conservative because they got one of their veteran running backs healthy. You kind of assumed that DK Metcalf was going to have a tough game just because of what happened to him the last 2 times he faced Arizona. And you didn't know Tyler Lockett's health. And so, you know, obviously I was joking about how it was a perfect game for these guys. But for Russell, I think if they can have him, after throwing 7 interceptions in the last 2 games, be a little bit more conservative, they probably would prefer that. And the fact that if Carson does return in week 12, they probably would prefer to still, establish the run game, because we know what teams are in the playoffs. It's great to be throwing the ball all over the place, but you have to have a running game to be successful in the playoffs. And this team is clearly headed to the playoffs. So I'm sure they want to get that aspect of their game fixed. On top of the fact that this was one of their best defensive performances, because Carlos Dunlap has been a difference maker since they added him, and they were able to get a pass rush for the first time all season. So they don't have to maybe have some of these heroic comeback efforts from Russell Wilson. So I think I wouldn't be concerned about it, because if you tell me he's running 10 times, he had 10 carries in this game, I'll sign up for that with how he usually plays. So I think he'll be fine. I wouldn't really panic about Russell Wilson.
But I wouldn't expect him to be the number one quarterback in fantasy from this game forward. I don't think he'll do it. I think if they've got Carson, then that means they've got Carson and Hyde to get that run game going. And if the defense is better and they're playing worse opponents, they don't need Russ to throw 35 times all over the place.
Right. Maybe those opponents are bad enough where he can just be so efficient. And
a game like this, sure.
Yeah. But that's part of it, though. It's like, DK Metcalf on 5 targets could have still, 4 for 80 and touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And let's address Metcalf, because that's probably what he should have had. He had a 40-yard catch called back. So that would have been 4 for 86. I think it was exactly 40 yards. Maybe it was a little more than that. If it were 40 yards, it would have been 4 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown on 6 targets. He schooled Patrick Peterson on a play that got called back on a hold. And as Chris Towers mentioned on FFT and 5, that happened to him a few weeks ago against the Cardinals. He would have had a walk-off touchdown catch in overtime, and it got called back. Mm-hmm. So, look, you don't have to worry about him facing Patrick Peterson again, and, he's fine. Lockett had a nice game. He was starting in 85% of leagues. Do you think Carlos Hyde eats into Chris Carson's production, or do you think they just go back to making Carson the workhorse? Carson will play next week.
I think Carson gets the type of workload that Hyde had on Thursday. And
Carson had 20 carries between their top 2 running backs. So right. Bo Scarborough had 6 for 31. Figure it's probably 8 for Hyde because he's, a more proven player.
Yeah, and then Carson gets the rest. Carson will get around 15 touches a week, a little more than that.
Okay, and then finally, anything else to say about maybe Christian Kirk? Larry Fitzgerald has had 8 catches for 62 yards both games against Seattle. Same numbers.
Crazy.
I don't know. Christian Kirk? Tyler Lockett. Okay, you know what? Let's go back to Christian Kirk in a second. Tyler Lockett, do you sell or do you hold?
Hold.
You can see what you could get in trade for Tyler Lockett. I don't know how many leagues still have their trade deadline to go. It's already passed in half of my leagues, but sure, you can see what you can get for Lockett, knowing what we know about Seattle potentially not being this crazy passing offense moving forward.
Right. Okay.
Not giving him away.
I just don't think you're going to get what you expect in return from him.
But you never know. That's why you put it out there.
What would you want? Would you trade him for Ezekiel Elliott?
In a heartbeat.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Christian Kirk, do you consider 4 catches, 50 yards on 6 targets? And DeAndre Hopkins had 51 yards. I mean, this really wasn't a bad game for Christian Kirk. Just kind of, I don't know.
It was a bad game for everybody from the Arizona receivers outside of Fitzgerald and PPR. So, you throw this one out. Seattle had a great game plan. They played well.
I want to see something, though. How many games has Kyler Murray thrown for more than what he threw last night? He threw, 269 yards?
I know the rushing numbers were down for him. That was the biggest disappointment of all.
That shoulder injury was obviously a problem.
Yeah, he's having a really good year.
Yeah,
picked it up with the passing. He's had a few games with 360, 380 yards. He's had a number of games where he's been right around 270, 280 yards. So this was fairly typical for him. Larry Fitzgerald kind of threw a wrench in it. Okay,
yeah, he was using him as a short area receiver. They've got the Patriots next week, then the Rams. Giants, Eagles, Niners after that.
Who do you think was started in more leagues, Kenyon Drake or Chase Edmonds?
Edmonds.
I'll say Edmonds.
Wrong. Kenyon Drake, just barely. 47% started. Edmonds, 43% started.
Oh, all right.
Dave, that was Thursday Night Football.
No.
I started Edmonds over Drake in the league where I have both of them.
Was it PPR?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, nice.
Did we both ask the same exact question?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Nerds.
By the way, so my free agent pickups in the Guillotine League were Amari Cooper and Amari Cooper. I picked up Joe Mixon.
Nice.
So 2 crappy players.
And
Cooper's not crappy.
I'm just kidding.
Mixon's not crappy either.
Just those two. But all those other guys were at it. I didn't see I didn't look at the transactions because I did quickly.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry you didn't get Dalvin Cook and AJ Brown and
Christian McCaffrey.
All right. DeAndre Swift has a concussion. More on that in just a second. Let me promote a few things. Watch CBS Sports HQ, people. Noon Eastern on Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. If you missed the noon show, you can watch it on demand on the CBS Sports app on OTT devices. Go to the CBS Sports app on your smart TV and scroll down until you see the FFT familiar faces. Sunday, we got FFT and 5 dropping at 8:30 in the morning. HQ 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Twitch at noon Eastern. We got the Friday mailbag coming up. And make sure you're listening to the Fantasy Football Today in 5 special episode. Saturdays with Jacob Gibbs, player props, all those stats that Jacob Gibbs gives. And you're going to love it. You're going to get some good advice for player props, DFS, those types of things. So DeAndre Swift has a concussion. If he does not play at Carolina, would you start Adrian Peterson or Kerryon Johnson?
Not with confidence, but if I'm desperate at running back and I missed out on all the other guys off the waiver wire, then yes. And what I've seen from the Lions over the past couple of weeks, yes, they've committed to DeAndre Swift. He played 73% of the snaps in their last game. Kerryon has actually played more snaps the past 2 games, but Peterson's had more touches, not just the last 2 games, but basically the last 5 games since the bye over Kerryon. So I would imagine that AP would be the primary back. Kerryon would fill in, maybe work passing downs.
So who would you start him over? Would you start Peterson over, let's say, the Baltimore running backs, the Rams running backs?
I would start him over Malcolm Brown. I would start him over Akers and Henderson. I would start him over the Ravens running backs, yes.
Yeah.
What did you say
right in that mix.
What did you say about Malcolm Brown? You would or you would not?
I would start Malcolm Brown over Peterson because Brown is going to be involved in the passing game. I think Kerryon would be probably more involved in the passing game than AP, but both guys are probably going to get 2 catches at most.
My God, Adrian Peterson has been so bad in his last 6 games. I don't think I can do the math right now, but he does not have a carry of longer than 13 yards in his last 6 games. He's just been awful.
He needs volume. Also, I mean, that's where, where he's at in his career. He's not going to have a lot of explosive plays.
But he does have, in 3 of his last 5, he does have at least 11 touches, and that's with Swift. So maybe there's something to it that look, he's old. He's old. Look at him. He's too old. Can't get those long runs anymore. He's slow.
Okay, Kenny Golladay missed practice. Everyone on the team is like limited or out, something like that. What, including Matthew Stafford. What do we make of this? We previewed this game yesterday, and what are we supposed to do about the Lions?
I mean, if Golladay is out there and Stafford plays, I think you start Stafford as a low-end number 1 quarterback. It's a good matchup against Carolina. I don't buy their defense being good, as we saw last week. I think you can, if Galladay's out, then you could go back to Marvin Jones. As we've seen, he's been fairly productive in the last 3 games without Kenny Golladay out there. If everybody's out, you're not touching Stafford.
You're touching the Panthers DST.
Okay.
No Golladay, no Swift, no Stafford.
No. I'm saying Stafford plays. I expect Stafford to be out there.
I would.
Stafford's
hope so.
out. You're right. Then the Panthers defense becomes attractive.
Joe Mixon missed practice. Gio Bernard or Zeke?
Gio.
T. Higgins missed practice with an illness. Clyde Edwards-Helaire missed practice with an illness.
Not COVID.
Right, not COVID.
Same with Duke Johnson.
Okay.
The Duke was back though.
Teddy Bridgewater's likely out. So we previewed the Carolina-Detroit game yesterday, even though today's NFC home game. So let me ask you about this. With Teddy Bridgewater out, Jamie, are you still confident in Mike Davis? Likely out. Are you still confident in Mike Davis as your start of the week? And should we be starting DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson?
I don't think much would change, to be honest with you. PJ Walker, I think will come in and do some nice things. I buy in this offense. I buy into what this, system is. So Mike Davis is still, I wouldn't change him at all. I think it's Detroit's defense has proven to be very inept at stopping running backs, stopping pass catching running backs. I think they would lean on Davis a little bit more. Joe Brady will be creative in how they, run things. So I'm fine with Davis. If you want to downgrade DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, that's fine. But, just make sure you're not sitting them for guys who are in similar or better situations. Or
the one thing that might help Mike Davis is that if it's PJ Walker, PJ will run. And so that rushing threat from the quarterback typically helps the running back because defenses have to account for both players.
Yeah.
So that I was discouraged about Davis because his playing time was down last week. He played, I think he was right around 50% of the snaps. That was weird. But they fell behind and maybe they wanted to get somebody else in there in that type of situation. But this week, if he's healthy and PJ Walker's in, I'd be a little more encouraged. I'd be excited to start Mike Davis.
But at the same time, if he's going to run, that means fewer catches in most scenarios for the running back. Just,
But if he's more efficient of a runner, and we're starting Davis, Jamie's starting him because he thinks he's going to be great no matter what he does, and there's a great chance of that. But I think I'm starting Davis because I think he scores. The Lions have allowed so many touchdowns over the season. I believe it's 18 total touchdowns to running backs
total,
on the
13
season.
rushing, 5 receiving, 9 in the last 3.
That's ridiculous. If he doesn't score, it's just an unbelievable farce.
Yeah, if he doesn't score, it'll be Curtis Samuel. Calvin Ridley was limited in practice. Please play Calvin Ridley. He said he was itching to get in 2 weeks ago before the bye, and they wouldn't let him. So play, damn you.
Yeah, let's get a full practice in on Friday. That'd be nice.
Alvin Kamara has a foot issue, but he says he's fine. Devontae Adams, meanwhile, has an ankle issue, and he says he's not guaranteed to play. Just so you know, Jamal Williams has now played 5 games in the last 3 seasons without Devontae Adams, or last 2 seasons, rather. 5 games in the last 2 seasons without Devontae Adams. He caught a touchdown in all 3 games last year, and he had 8 catches for 95 yards in one of the 2 games this year. The other game was a dud, though. But he has seen a boost in his receiving production with Devontae Adams out. Drew Lock was limited in practice. Noah Fant practiced and seems on track to play. Sammy Watkins was limited. He may have had some type of setback. He may not play at Las Vegas. And Green Bay, good news for them. Without the Adams news was bad, but both starting cornerbacks could be back this week. Kevin King and Jair Alexander at Indianapolis, which, by the way, the Colts could be without starting safety Kari Willis. And those are your news and notes. I've got some tough calls I wanted to ask you about, but first, Dave, you seem a little stressed. Are you okay, man?
I'm stressed.
I think you need
What about me? No. What about me is stressed? Adam, I had the best weekend last weekend. My parents were in town. My in-laws were in town. My daughter had her bat mitzvah. And when we talk about these moments where you just need to chill, I've done it after like calamity happens or after I put furniture together. This was a different type of moment to chill. We just celebrated. It was hours and hours after the fact. My wife and I are at home. The kids are playing in the backyard. And I got that moment to chill. And I looked at my wife and I go, you know what? I'm going to have a Coors Light. And it was that Rocky Mountain goodness. It was crisp. It was clean. It tasted great. There was no aftertaste. It was fantastic. And I just was able to just soak in the moment of, me getting older and everything's flying by, but also celebrating my daughter, celebrating with my family. It was fantastic. So I used that time to chill. And I did it with Coors Light. And it was refreshing and perfect.
All right, I'd raise a glass to that, or a can for that matter. And don't miss the new packaging from Coors Light. It's already hitting the shelves. It's got clear skies that invite you to sit back, unwind, and drink it all in. And the iconic Coors Light mountains still turn blue when your beer is as cold as the Rockies. So yeah, when you want to hit that reset button, reach for the beer that's made to chill and get Coors Light in the new look delivered straight to your door at get.CoorsLight.com. Get.CoorsLight.com. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Okay, I'm going to ask you about some tough calls. We're going to do this in the sort of rankings dispute style, kind of quick hitters here. J.D. McKissic or Todd Gurley in PPR? J.D. McKissic against the Bengals, Todd Gurley at New Orleans. I just told you New Orleans has faced 6 running backs this year that have had 15 or more carries, and Gurley's had 14 or more in every game. Gurley scored in all but 1 game. However, the Saints just don't give up rushing touchdowns. Those 6 running backs who had 15 or more carries, only one of them scored, and that was Aaron Jones. So in PPR, J.D. McKissic against the Bengals or Todd Gurley at New Orleans?
McKissic.
They're back-to-back in my rankings, and I'm taking McKissic. And look, it wouldn't surprise me if Gurley scores. That's what he does. I have a hard time saying that you should absolutely positively sit him. Are the odds against him this week? I would say, yeah, he's a bust candidate. But I do think McKissic continues to catch the ball because that's what he does. And that's what Washington's offense is all about.
In his last 4 games, Gurley's averaging 52.3 rushing yards per game.
Yeah. The Saints, number 1
7 catches on that.
3.43 yards per carry. And I think I don't know if you've been noticing the Bucs run defense hasn't been quite as great lately. Since losing Vita Vea, I think the Saints might be the best run defense in football. They're all them and the Colts and the Bucs. I would say the three that are really in that discussion. Let's go with the next tough call. A couple of Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott at Minnesota or Amari Cooper at Minnesota. Ezekiel Elliott in 4 games without Dak Prescott is averaging 3.41 yards per carry. He has scored in PPR 11, 5, 8, and 8 PPR fantasy points. And I know you're going to say he had 8 catches in his only game with Andy Dalton, but it's not true because he had, I think, no catches in the Washington game, and Dalton played most of that game. So Zeke or Cooper?
PPR, it's Cooper. In fact, I'm going Cooper and Lamb over Zeke in PPR.
I'll take Zeke in both. I think, fresh legs will help. I think them getting healthier across the board will help. And so I'm moderately encouraged by Ezekiel Elliott coming off their bye week.
I mean, didn't you just see what the Vikings defense did to that Bears run game on Monday night? All right, I'm just messing around with that. I think the Cowboys are going to have to throw in this game. And Cooper's giving you modest numbers in PPR, 3 of his past 4.
He was very good with Dalton against Arizona.
He was. And I really like the matchup in the slot for Lamb this week. So I'm banking on Andy Dalton getting a little more time in the pocket and connecting with those two.
Yeah, I think the receivers will play well. I just think this is a game Zeke will find the end zone for the first time since week 5. I think he'll be back involved in the passing game. I'm moderately encouraged by him this week.
What a sentence. Zeke hasn't found the end zone since week 5.
I've
2020,
got
man.
Advanced stats on him if you'd like to hear them. I was going to see the game preview. By the way, Dave, you might be convincing me to start CeeDee Lamb. I already have him in my lineup because I have crappy players on my bench.
Oh, great. What a sell job I've done. You've already got him in your lineup.
Yeah, can we trade back? Can I get Lamb back?
I'm starting him over Ronald Jones in a PPR league.
Okay.
Let me.
You have a couple of legal lineups there, buddy. Stop cheating.
Me?
Yeah, you have Jamal Williams on an IR spot for 2 weeks now.
Dude, that's not cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't even notice. I did not even.
Oh,
I think
it's IDP league. Even know? Have you been setting your lineup?
It's in 2 different leagues. I saw last night. I went looking to see.
No, it's not.
Cheating.
Not me. Not an IDP. I don't have him there. I have
Adam, you monster.
One league.
Let's see.
Let me tell you about Ezekiel Elliott. Okay, ESPN wrote a good story about him. If I can just freaking find it here. Okay, I got it. So the question was, is he facing 8 men in the box, 8 men fronts? Among NFL backs, he has the 5th most carries against fronts of 7 defenders or less. So no, he is not facing 8-man fronts. He is facing a lot of 7-man fronts and still doing poorly. As a rookie in 2016, he averaged 3.1 yards before contact and 1.96 yards per carry after first contact. This season, it's down to 2.06 yards before contact and 1.75 yards after first contact. For comparison's sake, Dalvin Cook is averaging 2.9 yards before contact. Zeke's at 2.06. Huge difference there. And Cook is averaging 2.59 yards after first contact. Zeke, 1.75 yards after first contact. So, those numbers are not kind to Ezekiel Elliott. They're not kind to his offensive line. And look, I know people think I have horrible takes and I say some wacky things. I just don't know if he's still a great football player. I'm sorry to say it. I don't know if he's still a great running back. We haven't seen the explosive plays. It happens sometimes to running backs. It happened to Todd Gurley. Looks like it happened to Melvin Gordon. Is it happening to Zeke? I'm not ready to go there yet, guys, but I think if he has another bad game, I think it's a discussion worth having.
I think it's a discussion worth having after the season because you can't just make that call after 4 or 5 games. If it's consistent for the rest of the year where that offensive line let him down and the numbers are clearly different, then we're going to say, okay, well, he needs the offensive line to be healthy in order for him to be good. We used to believe that Zeke would be playing well behind, 5 old grandmas on the offensive line. It didn't matter. Maybe it will matter.
Yeah.
All right, I found the 2 leagues where you're cheating.
Okay, good. Let's get to this.
Our magazine league, you have Jamal Williams in IR spot.
Okay, I do. Jeez.
And our IDP league, you have Deebo Samuel in IR spot.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? Oh,
he's not on IR.
Oh, well, that's a problem then.
I think we found the real gall man.
Who did Dave start against me last night? Oh, he started Russell Wilson and DeAndre Hopkins. I will take that in the July. Okay, moving on. Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody. That is poor form on my part. Teaser. Jameis Winston or Tom Brady? Jameis Winston against Atlanta or Tom Brady against the Rams?
I'm going to go Jameis. I think there's more upside with Jameis this week. I just think Brady, we've seen him struggle in some tough matchups, and this is going to be one of them. The Rams defense is legit. They're playing great, and I think it's going to be tough for Brady to have a huge game. So the only concern I have with Winston is the stupid Taysom Hill factor, which could obviously be a problem. But I just think there's going to be this is going to be a fun, good Jameis game.
I'm going to go Brady. I'm nervous that Jameis may not be magically improved just because Sean Payton's been coaching him for the last few months. He was off target last week. We can say that, he wasn't prepared because he was the backup going into the game. Well, he's been off target pretty much his entire career. And this isn't the same type of offense he was running in Tampa Bay. They wanted him to throw deep in Tampa Bay. I don't know if this is the same exact thing. If you're going to tell me that he's got more upside than Tom Brady, of course I believe that. He's playing Atlanta. Get out of here with that. But I think he's got more downside than Brady too. So I'd probably just rather play the sure thing, which is Brady getting around 20 to 23 fantasy points, maybe crawl into the top 12 at quarterback. I think the Bucs find a way to work around those strengths of the Rams defense. And he's got so many great receivers to make plays after the catch that I'm willing to trust it.
How much do you guys trust Michael Thomas? Is he a tough call this week? Because Heath has him in the 30s, low 30s.
Wow. Heath has Michael Thomas in the low 30s?
Unless that's Mike Thomas, the other one. But no, yeah, he's got him 32nd in non-PPR.
Well, I know Mike Thomas might be a flex.
26th in PPR.
Yeah, I'm going to start him this week. It's Atlanta. They're not good. I think Jameis will be good for Thomas. It's been a bad season. He's been, banged up. Obviously, he's had some issues with punching teammates. And, he's at some point he's going to start to play well. Wouldn't be a shock if it's against Atlanta because they're not very good.
I've got him 15th in PPR. I don't think he's a top 12 guy this week, but I think he is still a guy that you want to put in your lineup. And I watched that game, and he doesn't look slow. He looks just as fast as he did before. So I don't think he's being hampered by injury. His routes still look good. He's getting a downgraded quarterback this week. There's no question about it.
The thing that you're right, it's a downgrade, but the thing that might be an upgrade is maybe Sean Payton does allow them to throw the ball down the field a little bit more because they know that Breeze can't throw the ball downfield with the same level of success that he has in the past. So Jameis has a bigger arm. Is Thomas that
guy though? Is Thomas a downfield guy like consistently? Are they going to throw 5 deep targets?
I think we may see some more shots in the seam. As opposed to a 5-yard dig route or in route, we might see, a little bit more of a skinny post, some chances 15 yards or more down the field. I think that'll certainly help Michael Thomas.
And we know that Thomas can do that. I was thinking a little bit more about like 30 yards downfield. I don't know how many of those types of plays Thomas can be on the other end of, and this is why I kept him ranked where I have him. Winston threw 10 times last week. 5 of them were to Michael Thomas. 2 were in the end zone. So he knows where to go with the football.
Yeah, he's a top 10 guy for me. I'm not getting cute with Michael Thomas.
He's top 15 for Dave. All right, let's move on.
15th.
Taysom Hill. Where would you rank Taysom Hill in your tight end rankings? Some leagues you can play Hill at tight end, and he is my FanDuel tight end. And I think that is an absolute no-brainer. You have to keep scrolling down to find Taysom Hill.
That's always a good thing.
Inexpensive he is. It's not a no-brainer, but it's a good value. Where would you rank Taysom Hill in your tight end rankings?
10.
Right around there. I was going to say 13. So just outside of the top 12.
So who's the best tight end in that game? How would you rank the 3 tight ends in that game? Hill, Cook, and Hurst.
Hurst, Hill, Cook.
I think I feel the same way.
Okay.
Isn't there a chance that Jameis gets off to a rough start and Sean Payton's like, nuts to this, I'm just going to put Taysom Hill in there, and then Taysom Hill gets 20 fantasy points, rushing and throwing and catching and doing all that jazz.
All right, let's beat the waiver wire. I'm going to be honest with you. Most of the players I found are rostered in a lot of leagues. So I'm sorry about that. It was just sort of the way it worked out this week. But here we go. Zach Ertz is still 70% roster. It's available in 30% of leagues. Take a look at Zach Ertz. The Seahawks DST, if you still can, at Philadelphia, Giants, Jets, at Washington. Some leagues allow you to pick up players who have already played on Thursday. Obviously, you can't start them in the current week, but you can pick them up. The Washington DST, they're 72% rostered. They're at Dallas next week. They sacked Dallas 6 times a few weeks ago and allowed 3 points. Had a huge game. But they've also been kind of bad against other good matchups. So keep that in mind. Maybe Nelson Aguilar, maybe a Raiders wide receiver at Atlanta next week. Wouldn't mind
maybe
that.
Henry Ruggs.
Derek Carr, he's rostered in a lot of leagues. He's at Atlanta. Tua's at the Jets. Maybe Jakeem Grant at the Jets. Maybe Daniel Jones at Cincinnati. Or if somebody dropped Darius Slayton that's actually a good one. We know how much Cincinnati struggles against wide receivers. If somebody dropped Darius Slayton, which I did, if somebody dropped Sterling Shepard, which I know Jamie did in one league because he had to make those decisions this week, take a look at those 2 guys on their bye week. They get the Bengals next week.
Maybe Evan Ingram too. Somebody could drop him.
And the 2 DSTs, I think, in that game are appealing the Giants and the Bengals.
You mentioned the Seahawks defense, if you can still pick them up. I'd still pick up Carlos Hyde too. I mean, there's no guarantee Chris Carson plays next week.
Cleveland's DST is 82% roster. That's going to be a tough one to find, but they're at Jacksonville. Maybe Teddy Bridgewater at Minnesota if you really need a quarterback next week. There are no buys next week, so beat the waiver wire won't be as enticing. Saints DST is 82% roster. They're at Denver. Josh Reynolds, maybe want to see what's going on there. 7 or more targets in 3 straight games, 8 or more targets in 3 straight games.
He's led all Rams receivers in targets, catches, yards, air yards, red zone targets, and end zone targets over the last 3 games.
Pretty good. So he's 13% rostered.
If people in your league aren't cheating and stashing Deebo Samuel on IR spots, he could be available.
I can't believe I'm doing that. I'm really sorry about that.
That was a Jacob Gibbs stat, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Jacob came up with that one.
Green Bay against Chicago, their DST. Jalen Reagor's also getting a lot of targets lately, target share anyway, and he's 36% rostered, and he's facing Seattle. Good opportunity there. And Carson Wentz, people might be fed up if they dropped him. He's 78.
Alshon too, just in case he's back to form.
Yeah. All right,
Jordan Howard.
Startometer. Let's go real quick on this. I want to get to the games here. I always take too long. Startometer on these 3 games. Cleveland at Philadelphia. Baker Mayfield.
0.
1.
Kareem Hunt.
10.
All right, Nick Chubb's obviously a 10 as well.
10. He's an 11.
Jarvis Landry, 30% target share in 3 games without Odell Beckham for Landry, but not a good matchup. What are you doing with Landry?
5.
I'm stashing Landry with the hope that when the weather starts to get better, he starts to play better. But it's supposed to rain again. So, just another bad weather game in Cleveland.
Okay, and Hooper.
4.
5.
Hooper or Taysom Hill?
Hill.
Okay. Carson Wentz.
2. That's too harsh. 2.3.
4.
Any Eagle other than Miles Sanders?
If Ertz plays, yes. If Ertz doesn't play, Goddard.
Okay.
Yep.
Goddard or...
Oh, wait a minute. Fulgham.
Oh, yeah.
That guy. Remember him?
Well, I don't know if the Eagles remember him.
If the weather's bad, I don't think you can go with Fulgham. But assuming they're not playing in a tornado, I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm just worried about his target share. It's a 1-game sample size, but it was a bad sample size. So I don't think he's a must start. I think he's number 3 receiver at best.
Cincinnati, Washington. Joe Burrow.
7.
7's fine.
Giovanni Bernard or Joe Mixon.
It's funny because I like Gio by himself better than I do Mixon coming back. I hate saying that.
I do too.
It feels that way. Gio is a 8 in non-PPR, 9 in PPR.
Okay, how about Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins?
Higgins is a 10. Boyd is a 8.
9 for
Boyd's
Higgins,
a 9.
8 for Boyd.
Start them. Start Alex Smith, 0 to 10.
3.
Okay. How about Antonio Gibson?
7.
8.
Who do you like better this week, Gibson or McKissic in PPR?
Gibson.
Yes.
Okay. McLaurin's a must start. Remember, the Bengals, it's like 2 wide receivers every game. Or it's any wide receiver who gets more than 6 targets. They're always good.
Cam Sims is a sleeper in DFS.
Yeah.
And if you're just absolutely done, you should be able to find a better receiver than Cam Sims on the waiver wire, but maybe you're in a deep league. Sims is someone to look at. His playing time's been through the roof.
Logan Thomas or Austin Hooper?
Thomas.
Thomas.
Thomas has 10 plus PPR in 3 of his past 4.
Atlanta at New Orleans. Yeah, but Hooper was playing really well before coming back to a terrible weather game. He was 5 catches, 3 games in a row.
If I'd rather have Hooper than Thomas for the rest of the season.
I'm not sure if I would. I wonder if Alex Smith and the check down mentality helps Thomas more.
It might.
Okay, last game is Atlanta at New Orleans. Matt Ryan.
8.
Ridley back, he's a 10. Ridley back, he's an 8. Ridley not back, he's an 8.
How about Hayden Hurst?
8.
7.
We talked about Jameis. We've talked about Michael. Yeah, all right, that's it. Emmanuel Sanders.
4.
3.
Okay.
That equals 7.
Go to the games. Tampa Bay at the Rams. Here's your stat of the game. I'm going to make a case for Jared Goff as a sleeper. 4 straight quarterbacks have scored 20 or more fantasy points. They are Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, Drew Brees, and Teddy Bridgewater. Most of them were in the 20 to 22 range. But all 4 of them, Carr, Daniel Jones, Brees, and Bridgewater, threw multiple touchdown passes. We do know that the Bucs have a very good run defense. And we just know that Goff is not throwing the ball in the red zone. We talked about that on Wednesday. Very, very low red zone and green zone pass attempt numbers for Goff. But, 20 to 22 points, maybe that's good enough to finish top 12 or close. I think you guys have him closer to 20. So I'm making the case for Goff as a sleeper. What do you think?
I get what you're doing. And I think it would be more possible if he had Whitworth at left tackle. I'm nervous about that protection. And anytime Jared Goff's been in a game where defenses are able to pressure him, he wilts. He's that type of quarterback. So when we talk about Brady, I talk about how I think he can get rid of the ball quickly and make good reads and throw with good accuracy. Goff could do that too, but I don't know if he'll be nearly as successful. And when they get inside the 10, it's not, all right, let's see where Jared Goff can go with the football. It's, we've got 3 running backs. Let's rotate them in. Brown would be first, and let's try and score on the ground.
I want to lay this game out a little bit for y'all. Tampa Bay, if you look at the defenses, the Bucs are 3rd in yards per play, 8th in scoring defense. The Rams are 2nd in yards per play, 2nd in scoring defense. And I look at the Bucs defense, though, and in my opinion, the 4 toughest matchups they've had have been the Saints, the Chargers, the Packers, and the Saints again. And in 3 of those 4 games, they gave up 31 to 38 points. So, and then you look at the Rams, and they've played like the NFC East, the Bears. They were great against Seattle last week. But I guess what I'm saying is jury's still out on these defenses, but right now they look like 2 of the best. And in terms of the offenses, did you know that the Rams actually average more yards per play? Oh, I think they average the same amount of yards per play. They're 11th and 12th in yards per play, but the Rams run more plays. They actually have more yards per game than the Bucs, but they're not nearly as good in the red zone. So the Bucs score a lot more points. So that's kind of interesting there. Now let's get into the rankings. Tom Brady, 14th for Jamie, 11th for Dave, 10th for Heath. And we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. But Dave, you were a little more optimistic about Brady. If you want to give a quick thought there.
Yeah, just top 12 potential, but not necessarily top 5 potential. I don't see a 3-touchdown game coming for him, but I think he can connect for a couple of scores, decent yardage, hopefully not turn the ball over, hopefully not get sacked a bunch. I think the Bucs learned their lesson from the game against the Saints, and too many guys for him to throw to. Evans, Godwin, Gronk, Brown, the running backs. I think that there's going to be so many weapons at their disposal, and they're counting on Tom Brady to make the right read. I think he can do that. Keep the ball away from Jalen Ramsey and have a good game. Not a great game, but a good one.
Jamie, the Rams run defense wasn't great at the start of the year, but in the last 6 weeks, it has been dominant. And of course, we know the Bucs run defense has been really good all year. Are there any running backs you want to start in this game?
No, and this is part of the reason I don't like Brady. When we've seen the Bucs get one-dimensional, he struggles because when the run game's not there to support him, he's had bad games. The New Orleans game is a perfect example of that. They didn't run the ball, and he was terrible because you get one-dimensional. Teams know what you're going to do. The thing that's going to be tough for them in the run and in the pass is that monster in the middle. Brady hates pressure up the middle. Aaron Donald is the best in the business, and he's going to disrupt the run game. Their linebackers are playing great. Leonard Floyd's having a monster season for them, and I think it's going to be tough for this entire offense for Tampa Bay. So I downgrade all of them But the running backs in particular, yeah, I think Ronald Jones is the safer of the two because his carries will be there. Leonard Fournette's probably a little bit safer in PPR, but I try to avoid both.
Is Ronald Jones the best running back in the game?
Yes, he is the best running back in the game.
Okay, so then let's spend the next 45 minutes talking about the wide receivers in this game. Who's the best and who's the worst? I'm going to throw Josh Reynolds in there. So I'm going to say we're talking about 6 wide receivers. Who's the best and who's the worst?
I would take Godwin as the best, but Cooper Kupp not far behind. Mike Evans and Robert Woods make me nervous just given what their start percentage is probably going to be, because Evans is most likely going to see a lot of Jalen Ramsey because he likes bigger physical receivers, and Evans is their biggest physical.
Let me interrupt you. I'm sorry. Good thought from Frank Stamfel on Twitch last night. He thinks Ramsey might spend the most time on Antonio Brown because Evans is in the slot like a lot, 40% or something like, I don't remember the number, but Evans is in the slot a lot, and Antonio Brown so far has not been in the slot either at all or very much at all. And we know Godwin will. So what do you think about Jamie? Would you think that maybe there's some merit to that?
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, we've seen Ramsey go inside too this year. He's changed his game a little bit. So I just think that's the type of receiver that Ramsey likes to shadow, and I'm sure the Rams will allow him to do that.
Okay, and so you said Godwin, then Kupp.
Plus, Darius Williams is playing really well for them too.
Yeah, but that's not a matchup that anybody will fear in Tampa Bay.
No,
Brady's not going to think twice about throwing at Williams.
Okay, I'm going to throw some running back names out there, and I want you to tell me which of the wide receivers in this game you would actually start over these running backs. Mike Davis.
For sure.
No. Sorry. Tell me which of the wide receivers you'd start over the following guys.
None.
Mike Davis.
For sure, Mike Davis over all of them.
Giovanni Bernard.
None.
Yeah, I think I'd say none too. I'm debating him versus Godwin. Godwin's my favorite receiver in the game.
Let's go then a little bit lower. Let's go to J.D. McKissic.
Godwin, Evans, that's it.
Godwin, and that's it.
Let's go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Godwin, Evans, that's it.
Godwin and Kupp, and that's it.
Let's go to Damian Harris, and let's say PPR.
Godwin.
Godwin and Kupp.
Okay, Dave likes him a lot. Damian Harris. How about Savon Ahmed? Let's only do a couple more here. Savon Ahmed, and then we'll do Naihim Heinz. Ahmed first.
Same team.
No, I'm gonna go a little deeper with Ahmed. It's gonna be Godwin, Evans, Brown, Gronk 2, probably Kupp and Woods. So Ahmed will be behind them all in PPR.
Are you saying, Dave, that you have all 3 Bucs wide receivers ahead of Kupp and Woods?
No, I've got Kupp and I just didn't give you the right order. I've got Kupp and Woods ahead of Antonio Brown.
Okay. Do you guys like Kupp better than Woods?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the targets for him, including the 21 target game.
Okay. So then
against Miami.
I'm going to finish the discussion with this. Just give me like must start, good start, bad start, terrible, give me like 1 or 2 words for each player. Chris Godwin.
Good start.
Good start. Mike Evans. Leads the NFL in red zone and green zone targets. Mike Evans.
Shaky start.
Good start for Dave, shaky for Jamie. Antonio Brown.
Bad start.
Flex.
Cooper Kupp.
Good start.
High end flex.
Robert Woods.
Shaky.
High end flex.
And Josh Reynolds.
Bad start.
Flex at best. It's funny how we're not giving him the credit, you know.
The other thing is, like, we've seen it with our own 2 eyes. The Buccaneers, Carlton Davis shuts down. He's amazing.
He got beat on a big catch last week.
And we have seen that a little bit too. Like, think about the Giants game, how many chances Daniel Jones missed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the week after that, they were a mess. And like I said, they gave up 30 or more points in 3 of the 4 games against good opponents. They crushed the Packers. I mean, there's been some vulnerabilities there. I don't know.
I have a hard time trusting.
Quarterbacks struggle with pressure. These 2 guys, we've seen very many examples of it this year where you get pressure on them and they wilt. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on both of these guys.
Fair. Which offense do you trust to handle that pressure better coming into the game?
That's a great question. I mean, I think you got to trust Brady more because of the offensive line concerns for the Rams. But the way that the Rams play, if they get their wide zone running game going, then their play action is fantastic, and that's when Goff picks you apart. If the Bucs stop that, which you assume that they're going to because their run defense is so good, and then Goff gets in trouble, he's going to be a disaster. That's what happened against Miami. And so this is an interesting game for both of these teams because you've seen when teams get physical with Tampa Bay, they don't like offensively. They don't like it. That's what happened with New Orleans. This is a physical defense.
That's true.
When teams get physical with the Rams, it's going back to the Super Bowl loss against the Patriots. They don't handle it very well. And so you mentioned it. The schedule has been very easy for the Rams for the most part. You know, they've managed through some of their tougher games lately, the Bears and the Seahawks in particular. But that Dolphins game, they got punched in the mouth by a really good defense. And this is a really good defense. And so I think the offensive line is going to be key for both of these teams, as it is for most teams. That's not saying very much. But if Brady's getting pressure up the middle, he's going to start seeing ghosts again. And if Goff is getting pressure anywhere, he's going to struggle. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'd play the under if you're betting it.
Rob Gronkowski, must start?
He's a tight end with a pulse, yes.
Okay, has a touchdown catch in 4 of his last 5 games. Rams
should have added 5 straight. He dropped one against the Saints.
Yeah.
True that.
But he only had 3 targets last week. That's why Heath has him just outside the top 11th and non, 13th in PPR. Dave and Jamie have him top 6. And Tyler Higbee, a little bit of sleeper appeal there, right, for Tyler Higbee? Bucs allowed a touchdown, 4 touchdowns to tight ends in the last 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know if he's going to be involved past 4 targets from game to game.
Rams DST, low end starter. Bucs DST, a little bit better than that. In fact,
we're just going to sit all the Rams running backs. Did we get into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, Jamie, I asked him if there's any running backs he wants to start. He said no. You agree?
I think we both agree that Brown is the best one. And it's just that Tampa has only allowed 11 or fewer fantasy points to 8 straight running backs, or 8 straight games. A running back hasn't had more than 11 fantasy points, and it's been 8 non-PPR. This is non-PPR in the past 4. So their run defense has been good.
Yeah.
I'd start Brown over both Broncos guys and all the Ravens guys.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Okay. Green Bay at Indianapolis. No, I'm not going to. Okay. Yeah, Green Bay at Indianapolis. There we go. We're ready to move on. Here's your repeat stat of the game. I gave this on Tuesday. A running back has 100 yards or a touchdown in every game this year against Green Bay. So who's it going to be? Who's going to get 100 yards or a touchdown? Heinz?
Trust Naihim Heinz if you can. You know, it's not a must start, but, you know, if he gets the lead touches, he's going to have a good game.
You think that would happen?
If he does get the lead touches, he's going to have a good game because he's been so inconsistent. And Jordan Wilkins just don't even bother. So, you know, one of these guys will probably score. Wouldn't be surprising if it's Taylor. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if Naihim Heinz plays the most and gets the most touches. I mean, 2 games so far for them this season that's happened. One was a disaster for them. One was a great game for them. Week 1, it was a disaster because they were chasing points in a surprise loss to Jacksonville. And then last week they had one of their best games offensively, and he was their best running back. If I'm Frank Reich, I'm sticking with that until it, fails. So I don't know why they wouldn't go back to Naihim Heinz. He gives them such a different element offensively because when Taylor's in the game, they're probably running. Not a guarantee, obviously, but they're probably running. It's probably more of a power running game, power running attack, straight up the middle, something that's not very creative. They can do so many different things with Naihim Heinz. And it's not like he's just Darren Sproling his way through the season when he's not getting carries. If he's getting carries, you saw it last week. He was explosive.
It's the fear of the commitment not being there. Because after week 1, when he had that big game in week 1, there were 5 straight games where he didn't do anything.
That wasn't running the ball to the same level.
Okay. I want to believe it. But in PPR, yes, Heinz over Taylor. Non-PPR, I'm still going to go with Taylor because I think he can score. And I think that this coaching staff still wants to try to get him going. But every time Jordan Wilkins is on the field, I'm going to scream at the TV, curse.
The other part of this
with something like that
with Heinz is that this is a good offense that they're facing. If they're chasing points, it's almost a certainty that Heinz is going to be Heinz.
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why I think you trust Heinz is that I know the Colts defense is really good. They're having a great season, but Aaron Rodgers is playing at an MVP level. And I don't think they're going to stop him. They may slow him down. I don't think they're going to stop him. I don't think.
Well, what if there's no Devontae Adams?
Even if Devontae Adams is there, I don't think they're going to stop Aaron Rodgers. They'll slow him down and make things easier if Adams is there. But I mean, he's had great games without Adams on the field already this season. I think he'll have another good game as well.
Yeah, he's had without Devontae Adams like 4 straight games with 30 or more points or something like that, going back to last year. Both of them. Okay, yeah, 53, 32, 30, yeah, 4 straight games dating back to last year with 30 or more points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues without Adams. Now, this will be different competition for sure. But let me finish up on Naihim Heinz here. Would you start him over Ronald Jones? Would you start him over Malcolm Brown?
Yep.
Yeah. PPR, yeah.
How about Rex Burkhead or Naihim Heinz?
Heinz.
I'd go Heinz.
Okay. That was your first stat of the day. Your second stat of the day is about Michael Pittman. He has 7 and 8 targets in his last 2 games. Against the Green Bay Packers, there have been 11 wide receivers with 6 or more targets, and 7 of them, 7 out of 11, had solid games, 8 or more non-PPR points, 12 or more PPR fantasy points. So,
how many of them came in the last 5 without King on the field?
Exactly.
I think it's been fairly evenly distributed, but I can check on that. Do you guys have any faith in the passing game? Because, I keep mentioning this. They haven't had a good running game. It's led to a lot of pass attempts for Phillip Rivers, and he's been kind of good 3 of the last 4 games. So
yeah, but that was against the Titans, and he played great. He just didn't get a huge fantasy game. Jacoby Brissett stole a touchdown. He had over 300 yards and a touchdown in that game, so it was 18 fantasy points. And then the 2 prior to that, I believe, was Detroit and Cincinnati, and the game that he struggled was against Baltimore. So if King and Alexander play, I'd be more concerned about Rivers, but he's in that, I'm stuck. I lost Breeze, and Josh Allen's on a bye, and I didn't prepare. And so, Rivers, Alex Smith, you couldn't get Jameis, let's say, these are okay options, but, Rivers would be less attractive if the Packers corners are there.
Okay. Rivers or Goff?
I've got Goff.
I'll go Rivers as of now, but if Alexander and King are in, then I'm going to play Goff.
So here's the narrative on Aaron Rodgers that some fantasy managers have. He has just destroyed crap competition all year. He faced 1 or 2 really good opponents, and he was horrible against Tampa Bay. And I just laid out that Tampa Bay's defense has actually struggled against good matchups, but they did not struggle against Aaron Rodgers. They struggled against good teams, good offenses. And then he faced San Francisco, and they were, I don't know if they're good or not. He crushed them. So he
also did good against New Orleans. I know they weren't the same defense that they are now, but he had a good game there.
They were horrible when he faced them. But he did have a good game without Devontae Adams. Anyway, this is a team that gives up the second fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. Only 2 have scored more than 18 quarterbacks, but the competition hasn't really been that great against the Colts. So you guys have no problem starting Rodgers, right?
None.
Okay.
I mean, it's a downgrade if there's no Adams to an extent.
But he's still going to be top 10.
Yeah, but if you have Rodgers and Herbert, I'd start Herbert over Rodgers. And now I'm starting Rodgers over Herbert. I'm not going to start Winston over him. I'm not going to start Burrow over him. The guys that are in the low end starting range. No.
Would you start Cam or Aaron Rodgers without Devontae Adams?
Still Rodgers.
I think I would too.
Okay.
But Matt Ryan, I'll take ahead of Rodgers without Devontae.
Without Adams.
Yeah.
Start Aaron Jones. Jamal Williams, any interest?
If
there's no Devontae Adams, then he's in the flex conversation.
And he's in the DFS conversation.
Okay. Talk to me about MVS and Lazard.
Don't expect Lazard to play a whole lot unless Adams is out. If Adams is out, then I think the Packers really don't have a choice. They'll put him out there. But MVS is going to be the same guy, whether Lazard plays, Adams plays, whichever. Downfield target, guy that Rodgers is going to try and take some chances with. Boom, bust, flex.
He's got 10 targets the last 2 weeks, so he's been really successful in those 10 targets, 3 touchdowns. But, if doesn't score, you're going to be really, really disappointed. And Adam, just your point about the Lions, the Colts, who they face, it's miserable.
Yeah, it's so easy.
I mean, Stafford lit them up. Burrow should have had a bigger game. He just didn't get touchdowns, but he went for 313 in that game, and he ran for a score. You could say they did a good job against Lamar Jackson, but not the same type of thrower, clearly.
Tannehill they did well against.
Huh?
Tannehill.
But Tannehill's offensive line's a joke at this point.
Tannehill could have had, if A.J. Brown catches that ball, runs for a touchdown, it's a much different game. Would you, if Devontae Adams is out, would you start Lazard or MVS over, let's say, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods?
No, not those guys.
How about Antonio Brown?
Yes.
Okay.
If I needed somebody with that type of crazy upside, I would start him over Brown. But I don't think I would rank it that way.
Both Packers guys over all the Broncos guys.
Robert Tonyan is a sit. Colts are great against tight ends. They haven't allowed a receiving touchdown to a tight end this year. But if Adams is out, Tonyan was actually a star. If Adams was out, would you start him?
His value would certainly improve, but low end starter at best.
He would make the top 12.
Alrighty. So you might be able to pick him up if Adams is out. That's the only way we'd endorse that. 61% rostered Robert Tonyan. And I believe that is it for this game. Michael Pittman. Okay, so if Adams plays, is obviously the best wide receiver. Who's the second best wide receiver in this game?
Pittman.
I think you can make the case for Pittman.
And let me tell you something. We don't love Pittman this week because we're just not convinced. But he's 40% rostered, and this is definitely a beat the waiver wire guy. Because if he has another good game, then you might just be seeing a second half breakout. He gets Tennessee next week. He just had 100 yards against them. He gets Houston, then Vegas, then Houston, then Pittsburgh. It's a great.
It doesn't have to necessarily be a good game, but if it's still 7 targets, then that's something you buy into.
Right. All right. So this is his toughest matchup rest of season. Michael Pittman is a beat the waiver wire guy for sure. And just going to guess we're not trusting a Colts tight end, right?
No, but it's better for one of the two guys if Jack Doyle's out.
Yeah. All right, Philadelphia.
That would be Ali Cox.
Ali Cox. Yeah, Philadelphia at Cleveland. Here we go. We got 4 games left, guys. Stat of the game number 1. Just a little note here. Miles Sanders has only caught 14 of 30 targets this year. That is terrible for a running back. And they've been so close to connecting. Last year, he caught 79.4% of his targets. So I think there is some receiving production still to come from Miles Sanders that we just haven't gotten. So whatever, you're starting Miles Sanders. Stat of the game number 2. Philadelphia, they're pretty good against wide receivers. Check this list. All of these players had 61 or fewer yards and no touchdowns against the Eagles. McLaurin, Woods, A.J. Green, Ayuk, Deebo Samuel on my IR spot. Juju, Marquise Brown, Slayton once, Cooper, Lamb. All bad games. So what do we do with Jarvis Landry?
You can flex him in PPR.
Yeah, I'd rather just stash him on my bench for now. Because, again, expect it to rain. They're going to run the ball. I think the Eagles' offense is going to struggle because the Eagles' offense just tends to struggle. And so I don't think it's going to be a huge game for Jarvis Landry, but I do think there's big games coming.
Travis Fulgham. Let's have a little discussion here. Since Jalen Reagor returned, he has 12 targets. And those have been somewhat low pass attempt games for Wentz, 27 in one of them. That's bad. But 37 in the other. And that's low for Wentz, but not that low. So I'm guessing Fulgham is the only wide receiver you want to start for the Eagles?
Yeah, that's the case for me.
I don't want to start him at all.
That's interesting. Look,
Number 3 receiver.
He had a touchdown in 4 or 5 games before.
Nobody was there. The whole team was decimated.
Okay, but he's still their best outside receiver, I think, and he should get more targets. Last week was the first time he didn't have 7 targets and 70 yards in his last 5 anyway. And I'm not giving the Browns credit for good pass defense because Mother Nature was on their side the last 2 games at home.
No, but pass rush is going to be a problem for Wentz because Myles Garrett's having a monster season.
That's true, which is why having a big rangy target 10 to 12 yards downfield is going to be something that helps him in this.
Right,
game.
but is that going to be?
I think it helps him more than it would help Reagor.
Is that going to be
Wentz
where
isn't going to
Wentz
have that time
though? Because he got now Goddard back 2 games in. They're still using Richard Rodgers, so they're still running out, the 2 tight end personnel. They have capable pass catching running backs with Sanders or Scott, whoever they decide to use, whether they're connecting or not, they're throwing to them. You have Jeffrey back just on the field. He only had 1 target last week. Doug Peterson said his involvement's going to improve. So now there's another target or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whoever that, goes. And Reagor's obviously commanding targets. It's a totally different scenario than what started for Fulgham because he was the only guy there. Reagor wasn't there. Deshaun got hurt in that stretch. Goddard wasn't there. I mean, it's just a whole slew of things that worked in his favor. I think he's a good number 3 receiver. I think he's somebody you definitely want to hold on to. You're not going to drop him. But the other part of this is the way Cleveland slows the game down. And yes, you can factor weather into it. Deshaun Watson was 30 pass attempts last week. Derek Carr was 24 pass attempts. On the road at Cincinnati, 47 pass attempts for Burrow. But the game before that was Ben Roethlisberger, 22 pass attempts. Teams just don't throw a lot against Cleveland because of time of possession and how that works in their favor. So I just don't know if Wentz is going to have the volume that's going to help Fulgham. He can score. I mean, I hope he does. I just don't trust it. After last week, that was a bad sign that he did not have the same level of involvement. Forget about the production. Just the level of involvement wasn't the same.
Okay. So Eagles tight ends, you said start Ertz if he plays, start Goddard if Ertz doesn't play?
Yep. Yeah. Low end starter.
Yeah, but Goddard's been so bad the last 2 games. Combined 5 catches for 48 yards on 7 targets. Almost all of that production at the Giants. Yeah, he really just had one good game this year. Okay, so low-end starters. So would you start like Jared Cook or an Eagles tight end?
Goddard.
I'd start Goddard. Yeah, right.
Okay, Baker Mayfield is outside of the top 20. He just does not throw enough. The Cleveland running backs are both going to be starts. Would you start Kareem Hunt or Chris Godwin? I think I may have asked you that. I'm sorry.
I will start.
Kareem Hunt's not close.
Yeah.
All right, it's a good run defense here that the Eagles have. Not that it seems to matter.
It's a good run offense for the Browns.
Yeah, they run on everyone. And then we talked about the Cleveland wide receiver. Okay, you're not really starting the Cleveland passing game, but Austin Hooper, 1 catch last week, 2 targets, but the previous 3 games, like I said, 5 catches in each of them, 6 or more targets in each of them. The Eagles have been pretty damn bad against tight ends. So best tight end in this game is blank.
Goddard.
As a player?
No, as a fantasy guy.
I want to say Goddard, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's Hooper.
Okay.
This is volume. That's the thing. Volume is so crucial for the Browns. They just don't throw their guys.
As Heath would say about Hooper and Goddard, 5.
Right.
Cleveland DST 6th for Jamie, 15th for Dave, 18th for Heath. Eagles DST 19th for Jamie, 10th for Dave, 4th for Heath. So pretty different there, but at least 2 of, like, you could start the DSTs according to 2 of our rankers. Cincinnati at Washington. Your stat of the game. Ooh, this is fun. All right. Contrasting styles here. Washington allows the 2nd fewest fantasy points to wide receivers because they see the fewest wide receiver targets in the NFL. Only 3 wide receivers, Marquise Brown, Marvin Jones, and Amari Cooper, have had more than 72 yards against the football team. But this is a team that sees, like I said, the fewest wide receiver targets in the NFL. Joe Burrow is 2nd in the NFL in pass attempts, behind only Tom Brady, and Brady hasn't had his bye. So a team that doesn't see any wide receiver targets against a team that throws the ball more than any other team in the NFL, I believe, per game. Pretty fun stuff. So with that said, Dave, your confidence in the Bengals passing game, what is it?
It's good. It's high. I think that Burrow is going to continue to throw. I still don't give credit to Washington's defense, mainly for the reasons that you laid out. Last week, they tried to do something a little bit different against Detroit. They played a little more man coverage. This was after the Lions scored on them early in the game. I don't know if that means that they're tinkering and that they're trying to figure out what might work and what might not work. But if they stick to their zone coverage, which is what they do a lot of, Burrow's going to pick them apart. He's much more efficient against zone coverages than man.
So Joe Burrow or Jameis Winston?
Burrow for me.
Jameis. I think there's more upside with Jameis. The one thing I'm worried about Burrow, he came out of that game last week with a gimpy ankle. And I think almost every Washington defensive lineman, Chase Young included, former teammate of Joe Burrow for a brief moment, said like he was pissed. he asked Ron Rivera if he can go speak to the media. Like, you don't hear this from young players like this. Like he wanted to take accountability for how bad they played. And so the nice thing for Burrow is Jonah Williams and Bobby Hart are expected to play. So, getting some healthy bodies there. But this pass rush is going to be a problem for him. I mean, pass rush has been a problem for him all season long. So he's going to get sacked. He'll probably turn the ball over once or twice. He's going to have a very Jameis Winston-like game, where he's probably going to be 300, 2-2. Wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Volume will definitely help. And, again, Gio makes them more multidimensional in how they attack things. So that'll be a boost if he's out there as opposed to Joe Mixon. But Burrow's a very good low-end starting quarterback this week. Again, I just think Winston has a higher ceiling.
Would you guys start Joe Burrow or Derek Carr?
Burrow.
Okay. And Gio's a must start if he plays. He'll play. Gio's a must start if Mixon does not play. Is Mixon going to be a top 15 guy if he plays?
Yep.
Yeah, I think he'll be right in there.
Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, are they top 30 guys?
Oh, yeah.
Top 20.
Yeah.
Oh, both of them. All right, great.
I've got Higgins in my top 12.
Hey, all right.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Hope he's out there.
Yeah. And Tyler Boyd, when he's had bad matchups, he struggled. We don't think this is a bad matchup as long as he gets the targets. Alex Smith is outside the top 20. Alex Smith or Baker Mayfield? If you're desperate. Smith, okay.
I mean, Smith is the most passing yards in the NFL the last 2 weeks.
And look at the Bengals the last few weeks. 30 points to Rivers, 39 points to Mayfield, 21 points to Tannehill, 37 points to Roethlisberger. That's 3 of the last 4 quarterbacks they've faced. Rivers, Mayfield, and Roethlisberger. It's not exactly like Roethlisberger's great. The others 2, come on. They all scored 30 or more fantasy points. They had 44, 28, and 46 pass attempts, and Alex Smith is throwing the ball a ton. So there's again, sleeper appeal.
Yeah, I mean, Smith, give him credit. The amount of time that he's throwing, and something clicked for him in the second half where he was throwing the ball downfield more, so he's feeling more comfortable, trusting his leg a little bit more. So if this game, the hope would be is that this game could be a sneaky bonanza, with the way these two teams have a chance to score. You like the running backs because clearly we like 3 of them. And there's a lot of receivers that we like here, certainly 1 for the Washington side of things and 2 for the Bengals side of things. I wish it was 3 for the Bengals side of things.
All right, Antonio Gibson, I don't see how a lot of people are going to be sitting him. He's top 15. And J.D. McKissic is 21 in PPR for Dave, Jamie, and Heath. So he's just ahead of Todd Gurley for Dave in PPR. He's well ahead of Todd Gurley for Jamie. He's going to be ahead of Duke Johnson. Is that right? Duke Johnson versus... Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, non-PPR is different. PPR is easy to go with.
Yeah, non-PPR, right. You're probably not going to be...
He's so night and day in each format. It's crazy.
Absolutely. And that stat I always give about the wide receivers against Cincinnati, that it's now 13 of the last 14 with 6 or more targets have either had 86 yards or a touchdown. My hope is that the second wide receiver in this game is J.D. McKissic, who does line up.
Could be 3 guys because Logan Thomas has 6 targets the last 2 weeks.
Well, the Bengals aren't very good against tight ends either.
No, they have been the last 2 weeks, but before that, they allowed 6 touchdowns in 3 games to tight ends.
Yeah,
so it's weird. It's like we're just making all these cases for all these pass catchers, and Alex Smith is sitting there.
I think Smith is a good. I like Smith better than Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Okay. And Tannehill.
I'm just happy to see Smith play.
Oh yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin, by the way, just a little red alert for you. I know you're all going to be starting him, but
no red alert
in these 2 games with Alex Smith, he has an 18% target share. So, it's not I don't know if it's a great match, those 2, but we'll see how it plays out. Of course, you're starting him. He's top 10 in both formats, I believe. And Bengals DST is usable, low-end starter. Washington DST 7th for Jamie, 24th for Dave. Not really agreeing.
They're going to sack Burrow. I mean, that's what they do, and that's what Burrow does.
Yes. Now, if I go to the rankings page and I type in football, there they are. 7th, 24th, and 9th for Jamie, Dave, and Heath football team. Is this our last game? Atlanta, New Orleans? Oh, what happened to Dallas, Minnesota? Did I leave it out? All right, let's do Dallas, Minnesota right now. Okay. Would you like the quarterbacks in this game?
No.
No. Cousins more than Dalton.
2 quarterback leagues. Cousins is fine.
And why not Cousins? I mean, he's been really efficient. He's got 21 or more points in 3 of his last 4 games and 25 or more points 4 times this year in 9 games. You don't have to throw that much.
On the nose in 2 of his last 3.
How many?
36.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen in this game.
Why not?
Because we know what it is against the Cowboys. I mean, before Roethlisberger
play was a different script.
Yeah, that was okay. But before that, the 3 games before Roethlisberger, 3 straight quarterbacks threw 24 to 27 passes, less than 200 yards. But they all had 2 touchdowns.
I'd be surprised if it's over 30, but it could happen.
All right, start Dalvin Cook. What do you think about Thielen and Jefferson this week? Just those guys are annoying.
Top 30 wide receivers.
Top 30.
Who's better?
Thielen.
Thielen and non, Jefferson and PPR.
I don't know if Jefferson's going to get the targets. I mean, we're going back to the same thing that we just got done talking about with Cousins. Is he going to throw 30 to 36 times?
But he seems to be favoring Jefferson at this point, though.
Yeah, well, I agree. But there have been enough games to know that if Jefferson doesn't get the targets, he doesn't get the fantasy production, and you're left feeling sad.
So what about Amari Cooper versus Thielen and Jefferson?
Cooper's better.
I've got Cooper behind Thielen ahead of Jefferson.
And Dave, you like CeeDee Lamb?
I do. He's going to play in the slot against Jeff Gladney. That's a matchup from college. They played against each other in college, although not necessarily, play after play after play. And Gladney's allowed a bunch of numbers from the slot, about a 60% catch rate, over 100 yards after catch, 3 touchdowns. And I could see Lamb just feasting on him.
Who's the best tight end in this game? Lamb feasting, by the way. I like that.
Dalton Schultz.
If you told me Irv Smith was out, then I would take Rudolph. If Irv Smith is in, then I'll take Schultz. And Smith has practiced each of the last 2 days on a limited basis.
Okay, here we go. Ezekiel Elliott or Michael Thomas? Half PPR.
Zeke.
I'll take Thomas.
Ezekiel Elliott or a Steelers wide receiver?
Format?
Half.
I think I'm going to take the Steelers, guys.
I'll take Juju and Deontay Johnson.
Okay. Zeke or Clyde?
Zeke.
Alrighty. And I think that's it. Dalvin Cook's a start. I think, right? Start Cook?
Well, I haven't finished my research on it yet. Not sure.
He told us on Wednesday when we had a private Zoom with him that he told Madison, get ready for some work this week.
He also talked up Irv. Jamie, you asked him about if he could name a sleeper on both sides of the ball, and Irv Smith was his pick on offense.
Minnesota DST is certainly in play. They're 79% rostered, but they're top 6, so play them. Atlanta at New Orleans. Stat of the game, number 1. 5 tight ends have caught at least 1 touchdown against the Saints, and 4 of them had 6 or more targets. This is against the Saints or the Falcons? I think this is against the Falcons. Crap. Typo of the game, number 1. All right, I'll be right back and I'll check on that. But I believe this was a Jared Cook stat. He has a great matchup, but he doesn't get targets.
Atlanta's allowed a touchdown to a tight end in each of their past 5, but they haven't really played anyone.
5 tight ends have caught at least 1 touchdown against Atlanta, but 4 of them have had 6 or more targets. And Jared Cook just doesn't really get that. He's had
1 touchdown to a tight end in their past 5.
So, yeah, I mean, like, Heat's got Jared Cook 18th. You guys have him top 12 in non-PPR, top 14 in PPR. You want to talk about Jared Cook? Do you not?
I'm curious. He was asked by the media about his season. He said he's having a down year. He admitted to it. And then he came out and said, he's hoping to rectify that. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen with Jameis. Jameis' track record, Dave pointed this out when Jameis was drafted, that his connection with Nick O'Leary at FSU, and then it carried over to the start of his NFL career with O.J. Howard and mostly Cameron Brate from a touchdown standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll see, if this factors in against a secondary that throughout the course of the season, more times than not, has been bad against tight ends. So the one capable guy that has struggled against them really is Noah Fant, but we kind of know what Noah Fant has become.
Yeah. Okay, let's stick with the Saints then. Jameis Winston is like low-end starter. Just check the updated rankings. He is 12th, 14th, and 11th for Jamie, Dave, and Heath, respectively. Would you start Jameis or Stafford?
If Stafford's got everybody and he's practicing in full on Friday, I'm starting him.
Yeah, right now I have Stafford ranked higher, but if Stafford does not have his guys, then he'll be lower.
I wonder why Heath is low on Matt Ryan. He's got him 14th. You guys have Matt Ryan in the top 10. It's so obvious. Matt Ryan is just, sorry, I didn't mean that as a slight to Heath, but to me,
damn,
when Calvin Ridley is playing and when Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones are healthy, you just start him. He's really good. That basically how you guys feel about Matt Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're gonna have success running. You've kind of laid that out already with what Todd Gurley's looking at in terms of this run defense. he's coming off one of his best games of the season last week. He averages 22.2 points per game in his last 5 off a bye. And so, time to prepare. Opponent he's familiar with, a game where they're going to be throwing a lot. I think he'll be good, if not great.
And Hayden Hurst is top 5 in PPR, top 7 or non-PPR. He's coming on. Last 4 games, 54 to 68 yards, 4 to 7 catches in each game for Hayden Hurst. Saints are getting a little bit better against tight ends, but they still give up the 5th most fantasy points.
Not last week.
No, that last week was the first time in a while that a tight end had more than 23 yards against and that includes Gronk and Hunter Henry and TJ Hawkinson against the Saints and Ian Thomas.
Saints haven't allowed a touchdown to a tight end in 4 straight, and 62 yards is the max that they allowed to a tight end in that span.
Yeah, and that was way more than any other tight end. Okay, so we know the deal here. There's a bunch of studs in this game. There's Julio and there's Ridley and there's Kamara. Gurley is an okay start because he scores all the time, but this is going to be a tough matchup for him. There's Ryan and there's the tight ends are in play. Are there any sleepers in this game?
You could call Jameis a sleeper.
I'm like Olamide Zaccheaus, Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, Zaccheaus, if there's no Ridley, you saw the last time against the Broncos, there was several
100 yards.
He had 4 for over 100.
Cool. All right, that's it for today's show. Thanks, everybody. Good luck in Week 11. We got the mailbag for you on Saturday. We got a bunch of stuff for you on Sunday. Twitch, HQ, Ask FFT on Twitter over the weekend. So, we'll talk throughout the weekend.
The Browns have placed Myles Garrett on the reserve COVID-19 list.
All right, let's start the show over.
Sorry about that.
Talk about
that does make things a little more interesting for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better.
I wish I'd caught that. Yeah, it'd be a lot better if he's not there. Yow.
Okay. We'll talk about that on the mailbag show. For Dave and Jamie, I'm Adam. Have a great weekend, everybody. See ya.
Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and nonstop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.